There was a wedding ring in the microwave. Not on a plate, not in a box, just sitting there, on the glass turntable, like a piece of forgotten food someone tried to warm up and walked away from. It was my wife's. I recognized the tiny chip in the band from when she dropped it in the garage 2 years ago while scraping old paint off a ladder. She cried that day. Over the chip. Over the ladder. Over something that wasn't the ladder at all. But this morning, she didn't cry. She didn't say a single word. I had just woken up, still wearing the jeans I fell asleep in, smelling like whiskey and frozen pizza. I opened the microwave to heat up coffee, and there it was, her ring. Just sitting there. Cold. Clean. Perfectly placed in the center, like a bullseye. I called out, "Renee?" No answer. Then I noticed something else. Her toothbrush was gone. The small one with the purple handle she always said was better for molars. Her chargers, gone. Her pillow, no imprint. Even her weird socks with sharks on them were missing from the laundry basket. But the fridge still had her oat milk. And her cardigan was still on the chair. And her stupid little Pinterest magnets were still on the dishwasher. So either she left in a hurry, or she wanted me to think she didn't. I checked her phone location, disabled. I called her twice. Straight to voicemail. And then I remembered last night. The party. That ridiculous rooftop party her coworker threw with those fake candles and endless cocktails and music that felt like a panic attack. I didn't want to go. I told her I had a stomachache. She rolled her eyes and said, "Take something adult for once." She left alone. At least, I thought she did. But around 1 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a car door slamming. Laughter. Hers. And someone else's. A man's laugh. Not loud, cocky, confident. The kind of laugh that knows it doesn't need to ask for permission. I didn't check. I didn't want to know. I convinced myself it was the neighbors. That I was paranoid. Now, with the microwave humming and her ring staring at me like it wanted to scream, I realize. I wasn't paranoid. She left me. She didn't just leave me. She wanted me to find out like this. Like a scene from some twisted play she wrote and directed herself. And I was just the idiot holding a mug of cold coffee, standing in front of a microwave where her vows used to live. The coffee didn't taste right that morning. It had this weird aftertaste, like metal and regret. I stood there holding the mug with both hands, staring at the microwave like it had just told me my wife never loved me. The ring was still inside. I hadn't taken it out. I didn't want to touch it. I don't know why. It felt radioactive, like the moment I held it, the truth would spread through me like poison. I kept thinking maybe this was some kind of fight. Maybe she'd be back in 2 hours to scream at me for never buying the right kind of hummus or leaving the dryer lint in. But she didn't come back. Not in 2 hours. Not by noon. Not by dinner. And I didn't call anyone. I didn't tell anyone. Because then it would be real. If no one else knew, maybe it hadn't really happened. I paced the house like a man stuck in a haunted museum. Everything she touched felt like a ghost. Her slippers by the door, her journal under the couch, her perfume still hanging in the air near the hallway like she'd walked through it 5 minutes ago. I sat on the bed. Then I stood up. Then I lay on the floor and stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, uneven circles. Eventually, I opened the junk drawer. You know, the one where old batteries go to die and rubber bands go to multiply. And there it was, her second phone. Yeah, second. The work phone. The one she always kept face down, always silent. I had tried once, months ago, to ask her why she still had it when she changed jobs. She said it was for freelance projects. Design stuff, she claimed. I didn't ask again. I should have. The battery was dead, of course. I dug around until I found an old charger with bent pins and held it at just the right angle to spark life into the screen. The phone buzzed once, then glowed dimly, and I swear I felt my heart jump with it. Like I was about to unbox Pandora's inbox. It unlocked without a passcode. She hadn't even bothered. No missed calls. No texts from me. But plenty from someone saved under the name E. I opened the thread. E. Are you sure he won't find out? Renee. He'll be too busy fixing the ice machine. E. Cold. Renee. Colder than our bedroom. That one hit me like a punch. I read it again and again. Then kept scrolling. More messages. More nights. Hotel room confirmations. Uber receipts. One video. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Not yet. My hands were shaking too hard. The microwave beeped. The ring was still inside. And I realized something else then. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't emotional. This was planned. Meticulously. Cruelly. like a performance meant to unravel me, one step at a time. She knew exactly how I'd react. She wanted me to find the ring. She wanted me to find this phone. She wanted me to break. And I think, in that moment, I did. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I just sat in the hallway with the second phone in my lap and the microwave light still on. I don't know why I didn't close the door or turn it off. The ring sat there like an artifact, like it was judging me, like it knew this was all my fault and couldn't wait to remind me. And the worst part? Maybe it was my fault. At around 3:40 a.m., our cat, Milo, jumped onto the couch and looked at me in that weird sideways way he does, like he was processing what a mess I'd become. I swear, for a second, I thought he was going to say something. That's how long I'd been awake. Milo always preferred Renee, and I used to joke about it. But now, in the silence of our half-lit apartment, I wondered if he knew she wasn't coming back. If he'd already accepted it. If he missed her, or if he just missed how she used to whisper to him while making coffee, the way I didn't. I opened the phone again and scrolled further through her texts with E. I still didn't know who this person was. No last name. No photos. Just this faceless confidence, like they'd both been rehearsing for this moment for months. They had code words. Green light. Sleepover clothes. The box. That one kept showing up. I packed the box. Don't forget the box. Leave it under the gray blanket. I couldn't find any photos or files. She'd wiped most of the storage clean except for the messages. She left the trail on purpose. This wasn't sloppiness. It was theater. Carefully scripted. I wasn't supposed to find clues. I was supposed to find meaning. And it was working. Every minute I sat there, the version of our marriage I thought was real crumbled a little more. At one point, around sunrise, I grabbed a notebook and tried to list out every time she was working late. I got a 31 before I had to stop because I started shaking. My handwriting looked like a 6-year-old with a broken wrist. My mind was filling in blanks I hadn't seen before. The birthday dinner she bailed on because of a client call. The spontaneous weekend she took for mental health. The text she once sent me by mistake that just said, "Leaving now, he's asleep." I thought she meant me. But now, I'm not so sure. It was daylight now. I hadn't eaten. I couldn't. Every time I opened the fridge, her yogurt cups mocked me from the top shelf. Strawberry peach. I hated that flavor, but she insisted I keep them stocked, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case she decided to vanish and needed a trace of normal left behind? Or maybe just in case I finally noticed how little of our home actually belonged to me. Then I saw something else. Under the sink, tucked behind the trash bags, a small, unmarked cardboard box. I pulled it out slowly, half expecting something to jump out of it. My heart was racing again, the same way it did when I got caught cheating on a test in high school. That primal, stupid fear that doesn't know where to go. I opened the box, and inside was nothing dangerous, just strange, personal items, specific items, a receipt for a hotel room, a single gold bobby pin, a folded sticky note that read, "If he asks, say it was Vegas," and a photo, a printed photo, old school, a selfie of Renee smiling in a bathroom mirror. Not ours. A different mirror. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her hair was a mess. And behind her, in the corner of the photo, was a shadow. A man's shadow. Tall. Close. I dropped the box. Not because I was scared, but because I finally understood. This wasn't her leaving me for someone else. This was her running from something. And I might have been the next thing on the list. I spent most of that morning sitting on the floor next to the open box, staring at the photo like it might change if I blinked hard enough. I kept trying to find a different explanation, a harmless one, something rational. Maybe she was at a costume party. Maybe the note was for a prank. Maybe I was losing my grip on reality because I hadn't eaten or slept in 30 hours. But none of it felt like paranoia anymore. It felt designed. I picked up the sticky note again. If he asks, say it was Vegas. If who asks? Me? Someone else? Was I just one of several he-s in this twisted story? Was Vegas even real? The paper smelled like that lemongrass lotion she always used. My chest tightened. That smell used to make me feel calm. Now it made me feel like I'd walked into a trap she set months ago. I started going through the apartment with fresh eyes. Not as a husband. Not as a victim. As a detective, I guess. One who was already failing. There were pieces of her everywhere, but none of them made sense anymore. Her old sweaters still hung in the hall closet, but her favorite boots were gone. Her backup laptop was still on the desk, but the charger was missing. And then I noticed something that really made my skin crawl. The locked drawer in her side of the dresser. The one she always said was jammed. It wasn't jammed. It was just locked. With a tiny gold padlock I had never asked about because I was too busy being the cool, trusting husband. We never had secrets, I thought. And if we did, I didn't want to know. God, I was such a coward. I didn't have the key, but I had tools. I went to the shed, grabbed a pair of bolt cutters I hadn't used in years, and snapped that thing open like it had insulted me. The drawer stuck for a second before sliding out with a groan. Inside, there wasn't much. A red velvet pouch, a man's wallet, and a burner phone. I opened the wallet first. There was no cash, no credit cards. Just an expired ID with a face I didn't recognize. His name was Marcus Glenn Avery. Born in Indiana. No local address. I stared at the photo on the ID for a long time. He looked calm, almost smug. I hated him immediately. Then I turned to the phone. It was already on, no passcode. Just one contact saved, Z. The texts were short, cryptic. Z, it's safe. For now. Z. Don't forget the plan. Z. He's slower than we thought. I nearly threw up. Were they talking about me? I scrolled back. There weren't many messages, but the tone got colder as they went on. The last one was sent 2 days before she left. Z. Once you leave the ring, it's over. Do not return. Not even if he begs. And now I was sure. None of this was spontaneous. She hadn't just fallen out of love. She wasn't swept away by some affair. She was part of something. Something calculated. Something rehearsed. Like I was a chapter she'd already read 100 times and finally decided to skip. I pocketed the burner phone and the ID. I left the drawer open. I didn't care if it screamed guilt to anyone who walked in. But I wasn't done. If she had left to disappear, she wouldn't have left these behind. Which meant she either wanted me to find them, or someone else was supposed to. And maybe I'd gotten there first. By the time the sky dimmed into that uncomfortable bluish gray, the kind that makes shadows too long and everything feel a little too quiet, I had convinced myself I was being watched. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe the burner phone texts. Maybe the fact that I hadn't eaten in 36 hours and was running entirely on caffeine and old emotions. But I swear the air felt different. Thicker, like something was just beyond the walls, holding its breath. I kept pacing. The house, once familiar and safe, felt like it had been dressed in someone else's skin. I didn't know what I was looking for anymore. I'd found the photo, the wallet, the drawer, the box, but none of it explained why. Why now? Why this way? Why me? That's when I saw him. Through the back window. Just standing there. Near the tree line, not moving. Not shifting weight. Just watching. A tall man in a dark coat. Half his face covered by the shadow of the dying daylight. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't a delivery guy. And I knew it wasn't a hallucination because the cat bolted under the couch the moment I turned. I froze. The microwave hummed behind me like it had a secret. I moved slowly to the sliding door. It was locked. Thank God. I pulled the curtain shut with shaking hands and backed away, trying to convince myself that I hadn't just seen the same silhouette from that photo, the one behind Renee in the mirror. But I had. I knew I had. I could feel it in the base of my spine like a buried wire connected to something ancient and screaming. I waited a full 10 minutes before peeking again. He was gone. No footprints. No rustling trees. Just the backyard, looking as empty and lonely as I felt. I called the only person I hadn't completely alienated in the last few years, my cousin Owen. We weren't close, but he was ex-military, and he still owed me for covering his rent for 6 months back in 2018. He didn't pick up. Straight to voicemail. I left a message that sounded more like a threat than a plea. I need help. Not optional. Call me back, or I'm showing up with photos. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I dialed the number listed as Z on the burner phone. 1 ring. 2 rings. Then click. No hello. No sound. Just someone listening. I didn't know what to say. My mouth went dry. Finally, I managed to stammer out. Who are you? What is this? Where's my wife? Still silence. Then the call ended. Not disconnected. Not voicemail. Just a dead stop. I stood there staring at the screen like it might start bleeding. I didn't even realize I'd dropped the phone until it clattered to the floor and slid under the couch, where the cat had disappeared earlier. He didn't come out. For the first time, I wondered if maybe this wasn't about Renee at all. Maybe I was the one being studied. or played, or punished. That night, I didn't sleep again. I sat in a chair in the living room with a baseball bat, the lights off, watching the backyard through a 1-inch slit in the curtain. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. But sometime after 3 a.m., I heard a noise. Not outside. Inside. A creak. From the attic, which hadn't been opened in years. It started with a creak, soft, deliberate, wrong. Not the kind of noise the house makes when it settles or contracts in the cold. This sound had weight. Timing. It came again. A slow groan of wood above my head, like someone carefully shifting their balance on the beams above the hallway. My heart didn't just race, it slammed. Loud enough I could hear my pulse in my ears, feel it in my fingertips. I stood there, frozen with the bat still in my hand, every muscle in my body instinctively locked in place. The attic entrance was in the hallway ceiling, just a pull cord and a flimsy wooden ladder tucked into a slot we hadn't opened in 5 years. Renee used to say it creeped her out, said it felt wrong up there. So we never used it, never stored anything, never talked about it. Just another dead corner of our home. Or so I thought. I took one step toward the hallway and stopped. I didn't want to go up there. Every instinct told me to sit back down, pretend I hadn't heard anything, and wait until morning like a rational person. But nothing in the last 2 days had followed rational rules. My wife had disappeared. A strange man had stood in my yard. A burner phone led to silence. And now something was above me in the part of the house we always pretended didn't exist. I grabbed the stepladder from the pantry and dragged it to the center of the hallway. The whole time, I was listening for another sound. Anything. But it had gone quiet again. Silent in that intentional, suffocating way, like someone was holding their breath and waiting for me to make the next move. I climbed up slowly and reached for the cord. As I pulled, the door groaned open with a puff of stale air that smelled like insulation, dust, and something else I couldn't place, something metallic. I unfolded the wooden ladder, which wobbled more than it should have, and stood staring into the darkness above. I couldn't see anything, just the shape of old beams and insulation. No movement, no sound. And yet, I swear on everything, I heard breathing. Not loud, not labored, controlled, steady, human. I almost left right then, almost slammed the panel shut, nailed it down, and burned the entire house to the ground. But I didn't. I climbed the ladder like a man stepping into his own funeral. Each rung felt colder than the last. When I reached the top, I turned on the flashlight app on my phone. The beam was narrow but clear. I swept it slowly. The attic was mostly empty. No boxes, no storage bins, just dust and cobwebs, and what looked like scattered drywall chunks in the corner. Then the light caught something unnatural. A mattress. Just a thin, stained rectangle of foam tucked behind a rafter. Next to it, a thermos. An old portable fan. A backpack. Someone had been living up here. I crouched, heart pounding, and opened the backpack. Inside were granola bars, an empty bottle of water, a roll of cash, maybe $300. A notebook with the first several pages torn out. The remaining ones were filled with short phrases, dates, and sketches. Some of the notes were crossed out. One page just had my name written over and over in different sizes. Grayson, Grayson, Grayson. My stomach flipped. I almost dropped the phone. Then I noticed something under the mattress. Tucked in like a secret. Another photo. Printed, glossy. It was a picture of me, sitting in the living room, drinking coffee. Yesterday, I hadn't seen anyone take it. Hadn't heard a camera. The angle, it was from above. From the attic vent. Suddenly, it wasn't just betrayal anymore. This wasn't just a wife leaving or a marriage collapsing. This was surveillance. This was stalking. And the person who had been watching me, they weren't gone. They had a key. They had time. And I wasn't alone in the house anymore. I didn't go back downstairs for nearly an hour. I sat on the attic floor, surrounded by dust and insulation, just staring at the photo of myself like it was a prophecy I didn't understand. I kept looking at the angle, the shadow across my face, the mug in my hand. It wasn't just a photo. Someone had been studying me, watching my routines, learning how I sit, how I slouch when I'm tired, which hand I hold my coffee in. And the scariest part? I hadn't felt it. Not once. When I finally forced myself back down, I locked every door, every window, every latch in the house. I even pushed a chair against the front door like some amateur from a horror film. It wouldn't have helped if someone really wanted in, but it made me feel like I was doing something. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. But not from fear. From noise. Voices. Soft. Not loud enough to make out the words. Not from outside either. From inside the vents. At first, I thought I was cracking, lack of sleep, paranoia, whatever, but when I turned off the fan, the sound didn't go away. I pressed my ear to the wall behind the bedroom dresser and listened hard. That's when I heard her voice. Renee. At least, I thought it was her. She was whispering something rhythmically. Repeating. Almost like chanting. I couldn't understand it clearly, just fragments. He won't. It's not time. No more waiting. Almost. Then a low male voice replied. Two voices. In my house. Inside the walls. I ripped the dresser away, nearly tipped it over. Behind it was the air intake vent. Normal at first glance. But the screws were missing. It had been pried open. I crouched, shining my light inside. The tunnel stretched deep into the wall, too narrow to crawl into, but wide enough to hide things. I reached in and felt a plastic bag. Inside was another burner phone, wrapped in tissue, fully charged. This one had videos. I didn't want to play them. I truly, deeply didn't. But I did. The first was grainy and handheld. Shaky. Someone filming through the blinds of our living room. It was me again, sleeping on the couch. The timestamp said 4 months ago. The next video was in the kitchen. Renee standing behind me while I washed dishes, staring at me for almost a full minute without saying anything. Her face was blank. Not angry. Not sad. Just empty. Then she smiled at the camera, whoever was holding it, and nodded. There were 5 videos total. All of me. All taken without my knowledge. She had been preparing to vanish for months. Training someone. Teaching them how to replace her. The thought sat in my stomach like cold metal. Then I noticed something else, something worse. One of the clips was in my office. My private space. The one with the locked drawer. The one she never had access to. In the background of the video, there was a file folder. A red one. Confidential documents from a project I'd worked on years ago. Documents I thought I had destroyed. Except, they were open. Spread on the desk. She had lied about everything. But this wasn't just betrayal of a marriage. This was deeper. She had accessed things I had signed federal paperwork never to share. This wasn't about him. Whoever he wasn't just some affair. And Z knew things about me that only someone in my past life could know. Then it hit me like a freight train. Renee didn't just leave. She disappeared because of me. And now I couldn't tell if she was hiding from someone. Or with them. The morning after I found the final burner phone, something shifted in the house. It felt quieter, but not in the ominous way I had grown used to. It was like the walls had finally exhaled. No voices. No creaking. No shadows in the backyard. For the first time in days, the sun came through the windows and actually looked like morning light, not some spotlight meant to interrogate me. I sat on the floor of my office, surrounded by scattered papers, 2 burner phones, the red folder I hadn't touched in years, and 3 empty coffee mugs I didn't remember pouring. My body felt like it had been vacuum sealed with anxiety. My hands were twitching, still expecting the next twist. But it didn't come. Instead, the doorbell rang. Not kicked in. Not broken down. Just rang. I nearly threw up on the spot. I grabbed the bat, crept to the door, peeked through the side window. No one. But on the ground was a package. Wrapped in brown paper. No return address. Just my name written in black marker. Grayson. I brought it inside carefully, like it might tick or scream or burst into flames. I peeled back the paper, and inside was a black envelope and a flash drive taped to the front. The envelope was handwritten. I recognized her handwriting instantly. If you're reading this, you survived it. You found everything. And I'm sorry I didn't explain it better. I never could have. You wouldn't have believed me. You would have forgiven me, and that would have gotten you hurt. Or worse. This wasn't about cheating. Or falling out of love. It never was. I left because people from your past came back. Because of that file. Because of what you did to protect the project. I got a message 6 months ago from someone who claimed they could bury it all, bury you, unless I cooperated. Unless I helped them get access. I didn't. I swear to you, I didn't. But they were already inside our house. You were already being watched. I knew I couldn't save both of us, so I made a choice. I made you look like the fool, the abandoned, the betrayed. Because if you looked broken, you'd look harmless. I was never running from you, Grayson. I was running for you. I read the letter 5 times, crying by the third. Not from anger. From something I didn't have a name for. Shock, maybe. Or relief. Or the strange, Bittersweet taste of having loved someone who protected me by breaking my heart. The flash drive held everything. Full data logs, video proof, coordinates, names, all tied back to people I thought had vanished when I signed my exit papers 7 years ago. And now, thanks to her, I had it all. I turned it in, quietly, through the right channels. No headlines, no drama, no late-night visits from strangers in dark coats. Just quiet acknowledgement. A phone call from someone in DC. A long pause. Then, it's over. You're clear. That was 6 weeks ago. Since then, I've slept every night. The house is still. Milo sleeps on my chest again. I even fixed the ice machine. 1 week ago, I found something else. In the fireplace behind the ashtray, wrapped in tinfoil. A necklace I'd given her on our 2nd anniversary. Inside the chain was a folded note. Only 3 words. Come find me. I don't know where she is. Yet. But I will. And when I do, I won't ask why she left. I'll just say, thank you.